Hey, Dusty Console friends, we're back with another podcast.
Yay!
And we've got Matt and Greg
Times.
and our good friend Mark, who is sitting in on another episode with us.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, of course. Welcome. Welcome back. Matt, tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Well, we got a little bit of topics laid out at the table here.
All right.
We actually just finished recording some of our first proper MVS Neo-Geo recordings.
Very dusty.
We got into a little of the details about the how it was connected and how it was set up, and a little bit of the history of it. But we just started having a really good conversation after that, and figured, actually, this would be good podcast material too.
Might as well.
So I had the recording studio all set up here, so it wasn't too hard of a modification. But yeah, you get into it. Get all the goods laid out here.
All right. So tell us what this stuff is.
So if you watched the video before, you've seen some of this. This is MVS SNK board. It would be in one of the big arcade cabinets we all knew and loved.
Right,
back
playing
in the day.
Neo-Geo games.
So this is a single cartridge. You can get these for about 50, 60 bucks working on eBay nowadays. That's not going to stay true forever, as these get to be a little bit more rare. But obviously, if you don't have an arcade cabinet and you want to record some of that stuff, you need a way to actually see it.
Right.
And so some awesome people doing awesome things at Retro Electronic over in Europe have made this adapter to go from the JAMA, the Japanese multimedia connector, or whatever it's called, and actually output a SCART RGB video signal. So it's still a little complicated to set up with your things. Hopefully they come out with a version that maybe does direct to HDMI or something, but that comes with its own set of problems too.
Definitely.
This is the way to go if you got a serious setup there though too. You probably have a lot of other consoles that you want to connect with this kind of RGB high level stuff. This is something I'm going to keep forever.
Now this goes into here, right?
Yes.
Okay. I won't do it, but that goes into there.
No. And then you just hook up the controllers
to this.
And these are the AES controllers here, of course. Right. And so this is the AES system, which hopefully we'll be recording off of sometime soon here as well.
So these are all this is components of the arcade cabinet Neo-Geo.
Yeah.
Whereas this is the actual home console
system,
that they released. But not as much power as the old arcade cabinets used to have, right?
No, same.
Oh, it is the same.
Same exact
so this
stuff.
was literally like having the arcade cabinet in your home.
Absolutely.
Okay,
you
that's
can take the BIOS chip from the arcade cabinet, or a proper hack. Yeah, well, there's the good versions of the BIOSes that you can get online now that some really great people have made.
And this of course, is Fatal Fury.
Yep. So the MVS games are a lot easier to come by.
You'll notice this actually has two rows of chips,
pins.
2 rows of pins.
Yeah.
So that's interesting, because most of the other kart games only had one.
Well, they didn't have that much memory that they needed to address, that many chips they needed to go into. This was the highest of the high-level stuff that they were moving right into the home, which is a great idea, but in the early 90s, and you got a high chip count like that,
right.
It was a little expensive. And you looked it up before. How much was the AES when it first came out? It was like 91,
it was,
right?
This console right here, when it came out in the early 90s, was $650.
Yeah,
I gotta say, even
USD.
This is the one that got away from me.
Yeah, well, it got away from a lot of people because it was prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
Like, you do the math for inflation, and that's got to be well over $1,000 today.
Yeah,
so you think
that's
about
like a good laptop.
Right. So you think about like the next Xbox, right? Project Scarlet. If that came out at a price point of $1,200, what would you do? It's like, oh God, right?
You need the perfect storm.
How?
You need a rich dad, rich mom,
right,
and a real cool mom and a cool dad. And someone who knows to actually go, because you couldn't just buy this at any regular store.
How much were the games going for back then?
That's a good question. Not cheap.
Yeah, I can imagine.
No, they weren't. I mean, nowadays we complain about blockbuster titles coming out at $60.
Right.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that's not a bad price point, because I remember back in the day, when I got my first job and I bought my own Super Nintendo. Right. It was a couple years old at the time, but I remember those games were not cheap.
No.
You know.
No.
You'd finally get enough to get that console, and then basically for the first 3 months you were playing whatever game came with that console because you didn't have enough to buy any other titles.
But I guess this is back in the time where people didn't realize, like as we had a conversation about something similar earlier, is that people didn't realize the connection between managing the price point for the console,
correct,
so that you can give people easy access to the games themselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
And nowadays we have all the games online. I mean, you can still go out and buy a disc, but you don't have to. You can just download it. Right. So when the game is $60 when it first comes out, right, and you're downloading a digital copy, all that Microsoft or Sony is paying for is, whatever they have to give back to the publishers and whatnot. The rest of that is profit because they didn't actually have to build or manufacture anything. It's all digital.
Yep.
So you take that into consideration, and then you realize how much Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo and all these companies lose on the actual hardware.
Right.
Like, you're buying an Xbox that's, it's a $1,200, $1,500 computer, basically, and you're getting it for $500 right off the shelf. And the reason they're taking that loss on it is to get as many consoles out there as they possibly can.
So you get access to the material.
Exactly. Because they know over the life of that generation of gaming consoles, most people who are willing to buy a $500 console are going to put well more into that in games. You're looking at $1,000, $2,000 per person over the lifespan of that console.
Right.
And so that's where that's what they're banking on.
Yeah. And it just really shows how times have changed with video games here too, where with disc-based media, you had that high capacity, where every chip, every little megabit that went into it, it really counted. And now, this is physical media. I'm going to miss it. I like collecting it. I want my license as something I can transfer that isn't technically something that's leased to me. And then, something to pass on. Or, put on eBay when you get older. This is actually in my Wii right now.
Was it a little
Super
chip?
Smash Brothers. Yep.
Is it just a little chip?
So,
I don't actually have a Wii, so I don't know.
And you see the change
it's
coming
the Switch, right?
back. Yeah, this is the Switch.
Oh, Switch.
Where it's basically...
Well, what is it?
It's
just
basically a small cartridge.
Yep, it's an SD card.
Yeah.
It's an SD card.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So now they've gone back
Wow.
to now SD cards, like the physical chips that you manufacture, have gotten so cheap. It's something that you could, the size of a coin compared to the size of this, and the capacity of this is 1,000 times this.
And there's significantly more manufacturing costs associated with something like this.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it even goes all the way down to the metal screws and the chips, and this is heavy. Right. You notice how heavy these cartridges are.
Yeah.
They're significant. There's a lot in there, so you can imagine that they were pretty damned expensive back in those days.
But it's crazy for those of us of a certain age. Like cartridges are like that. To me, this is what reminds me of video gaming. Like I can appreciate Xbox One. I can appreciate the PlayStation, the discs, and being a Switch owner, I can appreciate the Switch has kind of gotten back to something a little smaller, but. I totally remember those days getting home from school, getting homework out of the way, and getting immersed in a cartridge on a Super Nintendo.
Yep.
Oh, no. Nothing was better getting home from school and hearing that plunk.
Yeah,
Absolutely. The cartridge went in there, and powered on, and it comes
You got to blow it off first.
Right.
Yeah. And then kerchunk, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And on the, of course, on the Nintendo, and it was the... press it in and then click, click. You had that satisfying, right? It had that spring that you had to press down, and it was such a beautiful sound. You knew that the next 2 hours of your life were going to be amazing as soon as you heard that sound.
And the graphics may have been behind with something like PlayStation, whatever. But I remember the one thing when I graduated to a PlayStation. That's when I, discovered the joy of the loading screen, right?
Yeah.
Loading, still loading.
Yep.
When you did not
these didn't load. It was all. It was right out of the gate.
Instant gratification, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One thing that I was thinking about earlier. So of course, with the old cartridge-based games, and even the disc-based games up to a certain point, you had the entire game here. There were no updates.
That's true.
There were no patches.
Yep.
There were no fixes. It was here. What you got was what you got, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, for the life of Aero Fighter 2, which is this one, this has always been the most of the game that you're ever going to get, right?
Yeah.
So, now you fast forward to today, and we've got a disc here for Dead Rising 3. Now, I don't know exactly how many updates there has been to this game that you've had to download online, but I know for a fact that the game, as you play it today, is not in this box.
No.
Wow,
So how is that going to change the collectability of these newer games in their physical form in the years? Like, let's say one day, just like Atari now, just like 3DO, let's say one day there is no more Xbox, right? And you have this collector's edition Dead Rising 3, which is now worth $300, right? Because it's so rare. What happens when you put this in and there's no Microsoft server to download the updates?
In theory, you can play the day one version of it.
I guess.
Because, the console isn't going to let itself online anyway.
Right.
And we all go back to non-patched games.
Right. That's exactly what it would be, a non-patched game.
But does that increase the value of the console itself? Since a lot of I guess you're right. It's online. The content's online, not in the console.
It's all online.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Obviously, I need to do some more research on that because it would be pretty. It's like Xbox, the original Xbox. They sunsetted support for that.
Right.
So I put that online, and they weren't super big on updates, but you still had that. The Xbox OS and all that as well. But you put that online, it's just a brick now.
Well, and we even saw that. I don't know if you recall, but. A few months ago when we were trying to pick what Xbox 360 game we wanted to play for an episode of the Dusty Console, and we couldn't get the game to play. I don't remember now which game it was, but it happened to a couple of them that we had the discs for, but because there was no more online support for that game, even though it was 360, it was only last generation, we couldn't get the updates for it. They had sunsetted everything from it. And we couldn't actually play it, even though we had the CD for it.
That's crazy, yeah.
So that's already happening.
What I hope will happen, and it gets back to the Neo-Geo here a little bit, is like this is 1,000 times better and more collectible, both these guys, thanks to the Unibios.
Right.
Which, even now, the latest version, it allows you basically, the Game Genie level cheats.
Yep.
For the whole library, more or less.
Absolutely.
It is awesome.
It is
where basically what becomes abandoned hardware. There's a community that rises up around it and says, "Oh no, we will support this.
We want it for collectability purposes.
And so
we don't want it to die. This is part of the culture.
Yeah,
and someone's got to stand up and preserve it.
And I think there's as much as it's obviously it's a lot more expensive to create a individual game like this, like you said, as opposed to like the downloadable games that you can get now. But I mean, how old is this game?
Going on
probably a 94 game.
If you can find 30, a working
30
system,
some years,
plays great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I remember
these don't crash at all.
I remember being a kid and having
is that 35 years? 35 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
having like some crazy like. I mean, as a kid, I threw a couple. I'm not gonna lie, I threw a couple cartridges around, but they were indestructible. You know what I mean? But then when you get to like the
controllers especially got thrown in my house.
But when you get to the disc based, like I would bet if I looked at my old Xbox games now, like the discs are unplayable.
It's
a lot
possible.
of the older cartridges I have.
It's possible. Just because the natural, the little scratches and whatnot you get on there, and thankfully nowadays they do have
resurfacers.
Resurfacers, cleaning kits for those. So
especially the original CD design, the plastic scratches. It's the data layer is on the top. So ironically, you can scratch that bottom of the disc, well, within reason, all you want. You scratch the top of it. then you're done.
Done, right, okay.
Which is, they have a layer of lacquer on there to protect it. It was an extremely good design.
Yeah.
But, I look at that when I collect discs. I'll be at the dollar bin at GameStop or something like that. And I'll have an old rare disc that's all scratched to heck. And I'm like, I got some toothpaste I could rub on that for...
Right. Does that work?
It does.
Wow, really?
Polish.
Do you let it dry and then wipe it off, or
just like polishing your car?
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Need a little machine to do it and whatnot. Well, and you've seen the professional machines.
I saw the professional one when I was in Denver. I went to the Level 7 games. They're not sponsoring this video, by the way, but if you're in Denver, go to Level 7 games. They've got a ton of this stuff.
Yeah. But just like
but they
polishing
had
a
the
scratch out of your car.
ones. Right. And actually, when I bought a bunch of those CD-based games for you, the 3DO and the Dreamcast, especially the Dreamcast, he checked every single one. And the ones where he could see any blemishes, he threw them right into that cleaner. And they came out as if I had just unwrapped a brand new DVD.
Wow.
It was crystal clear.
Wow.
Crystal clear. And this is, and we're talking about games that are 35, 40 years old. Wow, they come out, well, not quite that old, right? Because
25, 30,
25 years. Because they're CD, but they came out crystal clear and beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they stand by their stuff too. You can bring them back if they don't play, but
I think we may need to call it here.
So.
All right.
Yep.
We got some stuff we need to take care of here, but I thank you very much for joining us for this experiment here. Hopefully we'll get to do this a little bit more here. Got the good setup.
I like the podcasts.
Yeah.
So we got to do more of these, but I like playing games too. So the gameplay always tries. It's like you come over to the house. It's like, okay, podcast or game? Let's play some games. You know. Right. So
well, and if you want to let us know what to do, you guys are in charge when it comes to this stuff. Because
make a comment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot of titles, thousands of titles, and if you put one out there that we don't have, we'll find it. We promise you, we'll find it. So, thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.